Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 29th of December to the 4th of January. It's finally the first official digest, the real kind, of 2021. Happy 2021. First, we're going to go over videos I thought were decent, but I've grown to realize there's a number of these videos where I hesitate to give them a not good because there's enough about them that there are positive attributes. I don't want to give it a negative label, but it's I have more negative things to say about it than positive overall. So this is like decent with an asterisk. And I've had videos like that in the past, and it's from this guy Action Button, which I've heard a lot of good things about. And I remember kind of stumbling on his channel when he first came onto the scene, and I believe he's been in just games journalism or game development for a number of years. And he's an older guy, and he is very, very knowledgeable and smart and a good writer here, from what I can tell. And the kind of the attribute of his content is they are very, very long videos, and very long videos. So this video, he's reviewing Tokimeki Memorial, which is a visual novel of sorts. It's more of a dating sim, and or just a regular life sim, I guess. I think the main function of the game is like, improving your stats. It's kind of more of an RPG. It's very old in comparison, and it's not translated into English at all. And the whole video is, he's speaking in English, and he does some translation for you, but he's lived in Japan for a number of years, and he can read all of it, but he says that, I'm not going to provide a translation for you, which is fair, because I was reading online that on Twitter, I saw somebody talking about this video, where there's actually much more arduous development time in implementing the translation into the game and like having it work with the code. There's way more work and time intensive work going into that than there is the actual translation of the words, which Action Button says, like, I think, is it Tim Rogers? I believe it's Tim Rogers. I might be wrong, but I'm sorry. Where he says that, like, I could probably translate this in a week, but he's not going, he's not going to give you that. And, like, that was one thing that was sort of turning me off with this when I was starting to realize that, and it kind of sunk in that way. And the more I thought about it, it's like, he's reviewing this game and telling you how important it is and how much you should care about it. But you can't play it unless you read Japanese, unless you understand intermediate Japanese, as he says. And I just think it's really kind of annoying to be like, without this game, Castlevania wouldn't, Symphony of the Night wouldn't exist, Metroidvania wouldn't exist. Making those bold claims mostly towards the end, and showing how it's more cyberpunk than cyberpunk, which are bold claims, and I like how splashy they are, but like, how much of that does it really matter if it's not going to get a release here? Like, why should we like? And it's experience it for yourself. I just watched this. It's not AniTube, right? This is remotely anime adjacent. It's kind of otaku, and he does mention some anime in here, to the point where I know he pronounces it anime and not anime. But it makes sense because he lived in Japan. Okay, fair. So I mean, it counts. But Mathwiz had another Microvits video. And he talked about a lot of different things that are all fucking incredible. One of, like, literally my favorite video already this year. But one of the things he talked about was the idea that analysis videos ultimately can't replace the media you're talking about. They can try, but at the end of the day, it's very easy to come off of like, now what, right? It's like, or you explained this thing to me, so what? What's the point? And a lot of videos kind of fall into that trap. And the thing is that they were just making the video for the sake of making it and for the sake of talking about it, because they find it interesting, or they want to remember it, or they find it fun, or significant in some way. there's necessarily a point in the same way that some people are looking for. But where I was going with that is that, like, there's this very clear disconnect that he's sharing this very visceral experience, specifically towards the end. So, okay, 6-hour video, right? I didn't watch all of it. And, it's like, oh, Digest, he was supposed to watch all the video. Look, it's 6 hours, okay? I woke up at like 8 a.m. and I watched this till 10 or 11 or something. And the reason was because that I didn't watch all of it was because the majority of it, or I believe it seems to be close to the majority of it, are 2 whole playthroughs of this game. And he's probably just I didn't watch those. And he's probably summarizing it or like synthesizing his 14 playthroughs that he did of this game. Altogether 16, I believe. Because he did like 14 specifically for this review, and I guess he played it twice beforehand. Something along those lines, which is great and impressive and awesome. And I like the idea of comparing the first run to the 14th or 15th run where he's optimized it, and he doesn't look anything up. He's not using any guides to this, because the goal is to win the girl on the cover. There's a bunch of different girls you can choose to flirt with and go out with and choose, but the one on the cover is the most elusive and kind of the final boss in a way. And it turns out to be this very hyper specific, like, you have to just boil her down all the way to where it's like whatever, but like you also simultaneously love her. And him trying to like explain that phenomenon is really where it lost me. Like, his tone of voice and the amount of words it just felt like it kept going on and 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 on. And the problem it's not consistently entertaining because it's a 6-hour video that like repeats itself a lot. He's using the same jokes, the same visual gags, the same editing tricks, the same music multiple times. And by the 5th time he's using Clair de Lune. I love Clair de Lune when people use it in a video. Again, Mathwiz' micro videos literally used that, and I love that track. I used it in one of my videos. I love that track. I can't stress that enough. He made me hate that track for how often he was using it. I couldn't believe it. And like, it's repetitive, and I get it. It's so hard to keep producing original material for that long. I know, as someone who made a 2-hour video, that is like that. I make a point that unless I really need to, there's no other visual I can use. I try my very best to not show you the same thing twice, or to use the same joke twice, because it gets annoying. I'll start to rely on that, right? And it just gets boring for me and tedious, and I get the repetition creates, like, you're getting the idea through your head. It's a form of synthesizing. But it just didn't work for me here, especially the fact that I know how big and fat this video is. It's 6 fucking hours. It's like, I really admire the amount of work going into it and how often he's playing it. And of course, I love the fact that he's choosing this game instead of these more popular games like Chrono Trigger or Persona 4, which he precisely cites as things people want him to review. But he's like, this is so much more interesting, and people haven't said anything before, especially because he's one of the few people that are in the English-speaking world, relatively few people, that can actually play it, because it's only in Japanese, and none of us English speakers can play it, let alone would play it. That was just kind of annoying to me. It's like it's kind of a unique experience for him because he has this talent. And it's like, oh, just learn Japanese. And then, for those of us who it's like, yeah, I guess, but then we'll just devote our life. What if we're not tooled that way, or there was just whatever circumstances we're in. Not all of us are able to move to Japan for however long. It's a fortunate experience that he had, and it's great, and it's a unique voice, and I love that. But yeah, I can't help but resent it a little bit that he's selling us and made this game make me cry, but only the people who can read Japanese can play it. You know what I mean? It just has that feeling. It's just like, oh, all right. It's just kind of what it felt like to me. And And what was a little annoying too was for how often it feels like it's repeating in the footage that he's using, and the jokes and the visual gags and everything like that. For how repetitive it was annoying how often he would mention how big and vast the game is, and how even on these multiple playthroughs, like 16, 18 times, like apparently, like I was engaged with his post review after he did the whole review, and he talks about how, like, in the making of this video, he played it a couple more times, and he got to he had this scenario play out where his character got sick. He got like food poisoning, and there's this whole arc, and it develops in a completely different way, and he saw areas of the game that he'd never seen before. That's really interesting. And maybe there's more of those anecdotes in those two sections that I missed that I skipped. And that's also not something that I'm doing voluntarily, by the way. I was like, oh, I'll just skip that. I really love how transparent he is about this video as an artifice. Like, hey, don't feel like you need to watch this in one sitting. I'm making this intermission for you. Take a break. Here's another one. Take a break. Right? And, of course I didn't, but, maybe I should have. Because I was really engaged with the introduction and showing the significance of this game and demonstrating to even new-time viewers like myself how much research and effort he puts in to articulating these points to you and communicating in such a way. And it's like, look, I went to go so far as to watch all these dramas and listen to all these albums that came out at the time to figure out why they would feel the need to make this sort of video game now in this period of 1993 or 4, whenever. I think it was 94. But there's a lot of versions he listed too. That was kind of it's one of those things where I think a lot of YouTubers tend to fall into, where they just list a bunch of, it felt like a Wikipedia thing at first. Like he was just listing all the different versions and stuff. It's like you could have succinct it a little bit, And again, I get that this is coming from someone who likes making long videos, but it really has to warrant that length. I don't feel this warranted the length for me. And it made that last section where it really was getting to this emotional point, and he was kind of like dissecting the concept of romance and getting really introspective and things like that. I couldn't pay attention because it was a blur with how often he was using the same trick and the same, and the same visuals, the audio stuff. Apparently, it must have been in the playthroughs because I didn't notice it. But there's a pinned comment here where he mentions there's a portion of the video, and he doesn't give a time code. That's the weird thing. He's like, somewhere in the video. I'm like, you don't know? Like, what do you mean where? Like, somewhere in the video. Just, where is it? That was just weird. But that's just, again, it was just like, well, I guess you can't sift through these 6 hours. Huh? It's like that's the drawback of making a 6-hour video, is because that's just how much more you have to keep track of for yourself. But also he was like, it was just some weird thing he's like, oh, you lose track of 19 audio tracks. I'm like, okay, do you mean like 19 in the timeline? So like you have 19 open and there's different little sounds in each one. Why? I like, as an editor, as someone who makes these, like, I don't understand why you need 19 audio tracks. Maybe like it's art audio things, but apparently like this anomaly that he's talking about that lasts like a couple seconds is like apparently like super loud, and like a bunch of things get like accidentally stacked on top of each other really quick, and it wasn't intentional. And he's kind of like, 1,000 likes on this pinned comment and I'll re-export it or something. I guess maybe just tongue-in-cheek or something, but it was just like, first of all, how do you not catch that? I guess because are you really watching the whole 6 hours? But it's like, why did that happen in the first place? If you have 19 audio, why do you need 19 audio tracks? And I'm not gonna. It was just a weird thing to see, personally, as someone who like makes these kinds of videos, and not like big epic whatever. I'm not trying to say I put as much effort or something like that. It's just like, as someone who also makes videos, hearing that someone has 19 audio tracks on their, it seemed like on their timeline, I'm like, why? And maybe if you didn't do that and you succincted to 3, maybe, like your voice, your music. I don't have to. I hate to mansplain this, right? But it's like voice, music, or music, voice, like whatever order, music, voice, maybe an extra thing you want to put in, like the show's the game's audio, like dialogue or something. Why would you need more? Maybe if they're trying to make this chaotic thing and a bunch of people layering it, but then nest, put it in, bring it together. Maybe you don't have nesting in your audio software, or in your Premiere or something. I don't know. It was just what, it bugged me. It really did genuinely bug me. But another thing I want to praise him for, and I think this is just probably just his content in general and why people like him. I love the transparency he has about like this being a show, and this is like the first season, and it begins with Final Fantasy VII Remake and it ends with Cyberpunk 2077. And there's this whole arc, and he laid it out for you in the video of why he chose each one in the directory, and that's why he like randomly had to talk about Pac-Man. It seemed seemingly randomly. He gives you the whole explanation. I love that transparency as a content creator, because it is something that we can take advantage of, that not a lot of us do. I think a lot of us kind of feel safe in that artifice. So that this is just the video. I don't need to explain everything. But I like that about his content. And I was really engaged with the introduction and explaining the background and history of this game. And it was when he started going into the game mechanics that I was kind of like starting to lose him a bit. And then I didn't watch the I'm sorry I keep going on different trains of thought with this. There's a lot of thoughts I had with this. Which is great. I like thought-provoking videos. I mentioned how like I skipped these 2 playthroughs, and I didn't just choose that arbitrarily on my own. He says take breaks, and if you need, it's like it's not completely necessary to watch the playthroughs, he said. It's like you can go straight to the point after you watch part 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and I did that. So it was upon his recommendation and not my arbitrary thing. I was like, okay, cool, great. Fine. But maybe I would have more of an attachment to the point. I would have been more captivated if I went on that journey with those 2 playthroughs, perhaps. And it's also like I probably just wasn't prepared for how intense he is as a writer, but also just as a performer. I just got really sick of his the way he the cadence he had. And the fact that like I was playing, I actually sped up the video, and then I sped up the video again, because that's just how often he has dramatic pauses and like, gravitas, I guess, and that's cool. But I was much more engaged with his more down to earth. Here I am at the mic, talking about the process during the intermissions. I was really paying attention. And during the post review, I really liked that post review. Actually, I was like, "Huh, this is nice." Like after really completely disengaging with it during the point, and then in that last conclusion part, I really couldn't give a shit. I was really sick of it. Again, with the repetitiveness and just other stuff that was happening. But then the post review, I was like, "Wow, all right, cool. This just feels better. This feels more natural, I guess." And again, I like the personal anecdotes he was saying about like his actual time in high school and stuff like that, So, that was my first video with him and with Action Button, the channel. And I can definitely see where this is kind of the channel to watch, and this is really exciting stuff and interesting. But this particular video didn't quite do it for me in that way. I just had a lot of frustrating growing pains, I suppose. But maybe if I watch more of his stuff, or maybe if I have to watch from the beginning or something, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Did I walk in on something? Did this say part 4 anywhere? Did I miss a part 4 in the title somewhere? I didn't know I had to watch his other reviews to get this review, And thankfully, when he was explaining his process, I didn't feel that way. I definitely didn't feel obligated to watch his other work. But like, don't come after me being like, oh, it's because you don't get him yet. It's like, all right, come on. But I feel that if I get that if people did that with like Tomino or something, I'd be like, yeah, it's okay. You just have to find the right one that you'll really like anyway. Yeah, but that was decent, pretty good. I just had a lot of things I was just like, oh man, that was rough. But that's the decent video, without asterisks. And the first video would be from Mathwiz. She's talking about Star Twinkle Precure and its biggest missed potential, which really just boils down to I wish this one furry character that has attributes that I like was in more of the show. Which, I like the transparency that Mathwiz had, that it did kind of just boil down to that. But I'm happy that she was able to make the video on it and not feel the that weight of like, oh, this has to be a video, right? I think that like getting past that point and just like, I just want to make this video on this one thing, and it's okay. I don't have to put a bunch of effort and stakes into it. Not that she didn't put effort into this, of course, but like it is sort of like a small point and a smaller video. Not trying to make this big production out of it. And I like that just to keep her active and practice, I think, especially with, like the more that you write and the more that you edit. Even little videos like this can do significant changes and be like, oh yeah, I learned something here, and I'm happy about that, especially when I know that she's working on this big ambitious shonen project, right? That's cool. But yeah, it is what it is. It's just kind of this one point, and that's fine. Yeah, that's cool. Finally, covering another Nunmanji video on Vegeta, Dragon Ball's greatest loser. And I do really like Nunmanji talking about Dragon Ball, because he does take it from a very, anime as in the grand scheme of things, and not just it's Dragon Ball in the same way I feel like a lot of other Dragon Ball YouTubers feel. And I'm not much of a Dragon Ball connoisseur at the moment. I mean, I'm watching through the original, and I've pretty much absorbed all of GBZ through osmosis, so I could pretty much follow it, what he was saying here. Just the one thing I wanted to point out, though, and I'm hoping you don't take too much offense to this. There's and maybe I said it in other videos, I'm not sure. But I especially felt it in this one, to the point where I actually had to rewind, because once I noticed it, I couldn't not notice. I just paid attention to that and how often it was happening. So I had to rewind it to like, try to pay attention to what you were actually saying. But there's a certain cadence that you're using that's very familiar. It's not simply that it's familiar. It's just funny that it is familiar, because I'll get to that in just a second. But like the cadence you have is like ba 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 ba. I'm sorry. I hate to roast you like that. Oh man. It's just once you notice it, it's very predictable, and it's like, wow, he's really good. And sometimes switches it up, but it's consistent. But that's not the worst thing at all. I'm not trying to, but it was just something I noticed, and I couldn't unnotice it. And when I'm low key, there's a couple other there's other anime YouTubers that have kind of a similar cadence. And sometimes I notice it and it's distracting, and other times what they're saying or the visuals they're using, I'm able to kind of it kind of is able to melt away, maybe, or they're kind of trying to beat themselves out of it or something, but that was just something I noticed in this video in particular. I wanted to point out. It's like, hey, and like, that's tough. We all have a cadence, right? A way of speaking. And we're all guilty of that, especially if we're reading off a script. But I feel like if you notice it, then it'll be that much easier to like, okay, how can I say this line differently? And how can I like kind of vary it up, and so it's not as noticed? Because I'm just saying, to me at least, it is a potential distraction. Once people start to, it's something that once you notice it. But again, like a lot of anime YouTubers and YouTubers in general have that. I probably have that. I I can't think of it at the moment. But I it definitely exists somewhere, and you could probably find it and then roast me, and I'll deserve it. I'll deserve it. And I'm trying to no, I'm trying to notice that myself. But I think that's just a teachable moment. As memed as that phrase has been as of the past week on the TL, teachable moment. Yeah, I think that's something to say about it. I thought that was interesting about it. But I don't want to. I'm sorry to make that all about the cadence thing. I do really think you're on the money about him being the greatest loser. I really like that. And I was thinking towards the end of the video, as someone who's watching through Dragon Ball now, I feel like Vegeta is the single defining attribute of Dragon Ball Z. When I think about it, not like if you can think of a object element that's not in Dragon Ball, that is in Dragon Ball Z, I would say it's Vegeta, because he shows up pretty early on, and he's the kind of that defining trait that's sort of this earth-shattering revelation compared to Dragon Ball. And he's kind of the ultimate he's not the first, but he's the ultimate manifestation of like the Saiyan race, which is this new concept to Dragon Ball Z, right? I don't know. I just think that's interesting that Vegeta has such vital importance to Z, to where I think he's sort of the single defining attribute. And you could disagree with me on that. It's not like I have any ground to stand on. I technically haven't seen Z. Technically. But yeah, I enjoyed that video. I liked it. Good stuff, man. I enjoyed a Kenny Lauderdale video. Moderately, because it is a very general review. He's not doing something too crazy with this one. He's just pointing out, like he does with Silver Fang, the anime where dogs fight bears, and that's the Shonen Jump serialization. With the wolves and stuff. Super Eye Patch Wolf talked about it a little bit. And it's not, still not released in English anywhere. Actually, Joey, the anime man, mentioned that it's the most popular anime in Finland, at least as an anecdote, when he was talking about my anime list stats that he had, like, super top secret. It's like that video. It was interesting, but not like, I don't know, whatever. But, I had heard about that, and I actually had this on my radar in general because I think it's pretty cool looking. So I actually have it downloaded. I'm gonna watch it more towards the end of the year. It's one of the many Shonen Jump things that I have downloaded and ready to watch this year alongside my Naruto watch, which is going well, by the way. Yeah, Nunmanji, I know I DM'd you I DM'd you of whether I should read it or watch, and you recommended to read it, but then my roommate got me. He convinced me otherwise, because it's like he's a big Naruto fan, so we were like, oh, if I get to like the Rock Lee versus Gaara fight, is that the name of it? Yeah. We could watch it together, or the Pain Fighter or whatever. I just thought that would have been nice, and I'm more of an anime guy anyway. It would have been kind of a blind spot for me. So I'm watching it, but what can you do? Yeah, anyway, this Kenny Lauderdale video, it was just goes through the plot of episode 1, and then kind of talks you through generally what happens with it, covers the sequel Weed, as well as the author in general, and kind of his thought process and wanting to have the most manga volumes overtaking Koichi Kame, which I thought was an interesting anecdote. I like that with Kenny, he definitely goes beyond just reading off Wikipedia, because I think sometimes a lot of the tidbits he's coming at you with feels like a lot of them could be probably just gleaned off Wikipedia or something, but he does genuinely dig deeper, find really cool footage and posters and promotional stuff and things that you wouldn't normally find, and generally good synthesis, and it's nice that he's not really injecting his comedy into there as much, because I'm not really big of a fan of his particular style of comedy. It's very straightforward overview. I guess it's an overview of Silver Fang. Yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. Yata Kun had a bit of a teaser with Monaco Magica and Symmetry. It's sort of an AMV type thing, teasing this bigger video he's doing on Monaco Magica's aesthetics in general. I suggest maybe you don't want to be influenced one way or the other, but Clear and Sweet's been doing something similar with that on his channel, very prolifically, and very big long videos. So maybe you can glean some details from that, from his analysis. Just a suggestion if you thought of it. I don't know. But yeah, this was cool. It was just kind of showing off. It was just an AMV type of thing and very simple. I was noticing the majority of anime I just noticed that I say the majority very similarly to other times. Anyway, that's that cadence thing. I'm trying not to. He's like, no, they're gonna get me. I'm out. I have a target on my head. The majority of the shots you were choosing, I was like, huh. It's like all backgrounds that are like have the symmetry to them. It's sort of an economic choice when you think about it. For the most, maybe in some instances they switch it up a little, but like you would think that symmetrical backgrounds and set pieces and stuff like the art design, that's actually easier than asymmetrical, because asymmetrical you kind of have to design it every such way to try to make it seem like natural. And Madoka is trying to be surrealist in a way, very intentionally. That's sort of its aesthetics and appeal, I think. And you could argue it's sort of a shortcut, an economic choice, because you can literally just repeat the same. Like if you have two lights, like two lights on either side of the screen, they can be the same light, And it's not like they're setting these. It's not like a real set you're drawing and digitally making this. So, symmetry is actually kind of a economic choice but I was thinking about, because I was like, yeah, you just kind of copy paste the other side. It felt like that sometimes. You can just kind of open in like a picture book or something a lot of the time. That was kind of cool. Not that you were making that point. There was just something I was observing when I was watching this video. But yeah, pretty cool, neat stuff. Watched a video from GoatJesus. Nice to see that he's still active and still passionate about Evangelion. And boy, his analysis is so seems really in there, like really deep, and not like deep like my themes kind of deep, but really like very close attention to detail, really sharp analysis of the trailer that just dropped of the last Evangelion. And the tagline here is, or how Anno is lying to you, which is a little baity, but it's true. Because he actually cites a point in the trailer where it's like, I think this was artificially made for the trailer and isn't actually going to happen in the movie. Or maybe it's actually a little different in the movie. But there's something kind of, they're basically, and they're kind of like, throwing you off so that you don't get spoiled to what happens. And apparently they did this for the 3.0 trailer, where they didn't have Shinji's collar that would blow up that was in the movie, but when they had the trailers, they didn't show a collar in those same shots. So I'm like, wow, that is really interesting, and there is a precedent for it. So that's a possibility, and I think his analysis of that scene, it's like that doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem finished. And it doesn't seem like in place, and there was a lot of things he was building together. It's like, yeah, I don't know about that. And I really liked the anecdote at the end that he said, I hope I'm wrong about all of this. Because he wants to be surprised, and he wants to not, I don't think he was outright saying, I don't want it to be predictable. Because then it's like, well, that's on you for looking too into it and analyzing it that way. But I do like that he's like, it's fun to do this deep analysis and really try to figure this stuff out. Who's this character, and noticing all these details that is putting into it. It's fun, and it's a form of appreciation. But I do like that he had caveats the whole thing at the end, where it's like, despite me, probably figuring this whole thing out, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it surprises me. And there's actually a lot of different things going on. And it's an exciting movie in that way. So yeah, and he's looking forward to it. I just really liked the video. It was very uplifting in a way. Like the way that ended, I was like, yeah, I am excited for that. It generated hype for me, because that trailer, it was good, but it didn't have like this whoa kind of thing that it's not like End of Evangelion to me, right? If you're watching the End of Evangelion trailer, like that really infamous one, you have that like, what the fuck, holy shit kind of thing. And it's not, my relationship with Evangelion is more like I just like it as a spectacle piece and just as a really cool series of, of animation. And I'm not like trying to trivialize or dismiss any of the things it's trying to say. I think all that stuff's really emotionally impactful. But like, I'm not gonna. I don't notice. I'm kind of a monkey brain in regards to those details, and I would never pick any of that stuff up. So the trailer wasn't all that exciting to me, but he made the trailer really appealing and exciting. I was like, wow, oh yeah, that is and realizing all these things. Also, like, I barely paid attention to the Rebuild movies. I couldn't really get into them the same way. But he really cares about them in a way. I don't know if he likes or dislikes them, but he clearly does pay attention and care of what's going on. So that was a great analysis. I really liked it. Anime News Network had a guy feature a video on Legend of the Galactic Heroes and the use of propaganda. And the use of propaganda thing is really just something that he mentions at the intro and at the conclusion, but it's not something really prevalent throughout. It's kind of more of a review. Because like he's talking about the characters and the writing and how much he likes them and the different attributes in that way. Doesn't really spoil LOGH, which is nice. Like a little bit, but he doesn't spoil any deaths or major beats or anything like that. I mean, stuff that you kind of would assume going into it is kind of the things that he spoils, which I really did appreciate, despite having the spoiler tag at the beginning. He's like, you should watch the whole series, sort of deal. He didn't go into that, and I was like, that's cool. I don't necessarily agree with his takes on the visuals and the sound, but yeah, what can you do? That was just felt weirdly shoehorned. Like suddenly I was like, oh, this is a review. I didn't even realize. It didn't even have that feeling, and I was really immersed in it until he started talking about the visuals in that way. I was like, oh, suddenly this is a review now? Like, okay, And then towards the end it was like, oh, so it's the use of propaganda. I mean, yeah, kind of. You have a bit of a point in the introduction, and then you recap it sort of at the end, but it's it's fine. But I thought it was decent, pretty good. Speaking of LGH, on the thumbnail at least, replay value is back with what constitutes a masterpiece, and this is going over the kind of the subjective, nuanced details of like how you treat a masterpiece or how many masterpieces should you have versus like what a classic is. Because he's saying that there are objective criteria that you can cite as this is being a classic, versus a masterpiece. It's completely subjective, and his replay value kind of discovers, because he says like, oh, I wrote this like 20 times trying to figure it out. It's like there's got to be something more to this, but he realizes it's just this is the two criteria to make a masterpiece. That's it. And it was just the feeling at the end of like utter shock and, complete wonder of like, wow, fucking, like just the raw feeling of being impressed, I guess. And then the other kind of masterpiece where it's a show that lasts in his head for a very, very long time. And he keeps thinking about it, keeps coming back to it. And, I don't necessarily use the word masterpiece personally for that feeling. They're just favorites for me. And he mentions how like there's really no arbitrary, it's an arbitrary thing to limit the number of masterpieces you have. To me, I call them favorites. But there's and I agree, there shouldn't be a limit to how many. It's just that's just how many I like. You shouldn't limit yourself to how many tens you give or whatever. And it's like, it's not perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. There's things you can pull out and things. It's a good discussion video. And I like towards the end, he kind of showed off the different ones that he calls a masterpiece. And then he's like, there's one I'm not showing. That's because it will be the last video I ever make or something. I'm like, oh, okay. Interesting. But what was the thing I was going on? I'm sorry, I just have like the train of thought and things get lost. Shoot. Yeah, the thing with masterpiece, I call them favorites, where like you're just in utter disbelief, or you keep thinking about it. You keep coming back to it, and it actually means a lot to you. I have that with my top 10, and that was what I was going to say. Well, yes, you don't need to have a rigid top 10 or a top whatever. And you don't even have to order them in any particular way. I personally do that. I have a top 10, and then I have my group of favorites that are not in any order. But I have a top 10 very rigid that I always keep in my head as like, these are my top 10. I have that just as a shorthand to be able to very easily, briefly communicate to you what I like and what I consider my favorites. You know, I think you learn a lot about a person's taste and how long they've been in the medium too, because of the shows that they watch. Like, if a person's favorites is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Naruto, you know, Soul Eater, like a lot of these, like, you can also tell what era they're from. You know, like of when they started watching anime, like Attack on Titan. Not like the having them in their favorites is a bad thing, or like, oh, they're new. Oh, you must be new if you have those in your favorites. Not necessarily, but it is a little. You can kind of indicative. It's like, oh yeah, this person went out of their way to watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes, or went out of their way to watch this anime that isn't available in the West, or maybe not even subbed, and it's in their favorites. Having something like that, something eclectic, there's also that taste, that discussion of like boring taste versus not boring taste or whatever. There's more nuance to it, I think, but generally, I think you limit it. You want to have like a small pool so that people can immediately get across what you like, what you prioritize. You know, things that really resonate with you, that kind of almost represent you. In a way, it's like, yeah, if there's a lot of these more head spinning kind of like intellectual type of shows, that's your preference over maybe just this 3-minute short that's just animation and it's really really cool. You know what I mean? And there's equal valid. It's great to have both or either or. There's no rules about this, and I agree with that. But that's just, I think that's why we have it as a limited space in a way. That would be my argument against, like, yeah, you don't want to give like 50 top 10s, because then it's like, all right, well, which one do you like best, right? And like, it just seems very vast, and you don't know immediately how to approach a person, and you want to know them a little more, get to know them, type of thing. That's just kind of what it's for me, at least. But yeah, I enjoyed that video. It's nice. And I'm going to go into what I thought were the best videos of the week, or things that just got me really excited, or really, yeah, excited, I guess, or just really cool. It was like, whoa, yeah. And the first one is an anime, again, that was released this week that I've never seen before, and I don't know how many other people have, because it's a student film, I believe, what I can gather. Made by the person who uploaded this, and it's sort of a fan animation too, because it uses Hey You from Sabungal, like that insert song they play at the finale, and I used it at the end of my Tomino section. If you haven't seen Sabungal, and if you've seen my Gurren Lagann video, it's the track I use right before Gynex. If you can remember, just watch the video. But it keeps cutting away to that into different other sections, and like it sort of seems like a tribute to Tomino's stuff as well as Yasuhiko works, because I'm pretty sure it has Arian in there, like the character Arian from that from the movie. But I think it's like his OCs or something like that, and it's a lot of moving landscapes and crazy animation, and it's like on the 8mm thing, and just really ambitious and really freaking cool. And I just love that that's sort of something you can find on YouTube, like, and it can just happen. I know it's not anime YouTube in the conventional way that we're talking about it, but I think it's really great. You should totally check it out. It's dope. You can't list it on a list on My Anime List or Kitsu or something, though. That'd be the only downside. It's like, what do you mean? Well, I don't know. I don't think this is listed anywhere. So it's like, does that mean it's anime? It's like, well, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was very, very cool. IanWaffles, with his first really major, significant video, with a very nice thumbnail for motions, and editing done by Core, and I'm very happy that Core specifically, like, really, you could tell Core really cared about this one. Not that he doesn't care about his other editing, right? But like, with how often he's edited for other people, I imagine that there's times where you kind of don't notice things, or it's like, oh, that was a nice edit, things like that. And I know Core is obviously capable of those things. So there's certain aspects to this video visually, and I think Ian actually mentions that, right? Where it's like, yeah, if you were able to pay attention to this video, that's mostly on Core. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. With like some of the, especially the effects at the beginning, it's mostly clip selection, but like obviously good clip selection. But there's a lot of really nice, tasteful things that like has a really good feel to it. There's a couple music interludes. It's nice. Well edited video. But of course, all credit going to Ian with the actual content here being about Love, Chinibyo, and Other Delusions, which I've not seen and I've never cared before. When he messaged me that he was doing this video, I was like, yeah, okay. Truthfully, like, I like the guy and we follow. But I hadn't seen this show and I'm not much of a KyoAni guy. I can't necessarily, like, I've seen a couple Hyoka videos and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. and like, it was an ask to do that for me personally. But no, it was 40 minutes and it really flew by. It was really cool. I was very impressed with it. That was kind of why it was best for me. I was like, wow, a video I can pay attention to. Not like I can't pay attention to these other ones, but it was more like for something that I wouldn't have expected to hold my attention, personally, just based on the length and the subject matter. But I really liked the angle of this video being a defense video, especially because, I don't know if you saw this, Ian, but Explanation Point has been watching Love, Chinibyo, and Other Delusions and not liking it. Like, he had like this thread that I saw, and I didn't read all of it or whatever, or I haven't been like really following his opinions or something, but I just kind of happened to see it. And I remember him kind of complaining about the second season and other things, and I think he was alluding to the main guy being like an abusive boyfriend or something, or maybe he was talking about other characters or something, because I was watching your video and I was like, what is he talking about? It's like, this seems really fine, and maybe the season 2, like, it ruins their relationship or something. But the key thing about this video that was enlightening to me, and maybe a source of why all these comments that you cite are happening about this character being dumb and you wish she wasn't a Chinibyo, and it's like, well, then what's the point of the show? When you said that, some people were like, I wish she would just act normal. Like, go with real life. Like, that's the premise of the show. I wish these magical girls wouldn't turn into magical girls. What are you doing? Oh, no. I just thought that was funny. But, I think a lot of people don't realize, and I certainly didn't know this, and maybe that's because I'm not into this show. I didn't know there was a movie. I thought there was just like 2 seasons. I didn't know there was like a legit movie that like actually gave some progress that addresses these issues that that people are talking about. And granted, I don't know when these comments are being made, but I'm sure the majority of the discussion probably happened when it came out in 2014, and whenever the second season came out, which was like, I don't know off the top of my head. I think you mentioned it once in the video, and that was like the only time I saw the dates. I was like, oh, it came out 2018, the movie. Oh, wow. But like, that's pretty recent, all things considered. So it's like, how many of them had seen the movie? And I think a lot of your defense comes from support of the movie and like addressing a lot of these ideas. And I think like your favorite scene was from the movie, that one of like her debating of letting go of her Chinibyo attributes, I guess, or her powers. And again, I thought it was really compelling all the way through and really guiding you through it. And it didn't feel, I think you do sort of lampshade it where it's like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. It didn't feel like plot regurgitation. It was really like, and I appreciate it because I hadn't seen the show. But I mean, you were focusing mainly on the relationship of the 2 characters and where she gets these ideas from. And you were really synthesizing that in a way that makes sense to me as someone who hasn't seen it. So I feel like, going into I feel like if I ever actually go into the show, I think I'm going to go in with much better expectations of it. So that was thanks to your video. I think I thought it was. I also love just defense videos in general, like kind of disproving this well thought, long thought belief or whatever, and defending an anime that gets some not so good praise sort of deal. Because I do think this one does get a good deal of flack for KyoAni work, all things considered. But yeah, good job. I really dug that. Another video from Mumi. I'm so happy he's still doing it. I think I. Oh, you know what? You know what? I think it is Mumi because his profile picture is Mami, is Mami, like the character Mami from Madoka Magica. Okay. Okay, I think it is. Yeah. Okay. But this is about anime short showcases, and it's more of an introduction. I'm just reading the title to you. And I like the selections here. It's mostly short stuff. I've seen Raintown, and I saw that one Chinese one, and I never marked it on my list. I don't know why, but I do remember watching it on YouTube. I don't remember who suggested it, but I looked dope. I think I may have seen it as a screen cap or something. And yeah, I watched it. It was really good. But I'm happy you were showcasing some cool stuff. That one claymation, the one stop motion you said, looked really good. And did you know? You probably saw it. Because I believe you're in my Discord? Yeah. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Sorry. There's a feature film that's being made by the guy who directed or was the animator on the Strings short that you mentioned. That's the one with the strings or whatever, and he's the same guy behind Inika Isha. That guy has a feature film coming out like this year. I'm like, woo! Yeah, so look that up. I may have retweeted it or something. But yeah, it's good shit. Nice one. I hope you do more. Great. I'll die. I know. That's how you pronounce it. The Redline OVA you should respect. And I'm not just talking about this because you mentioned me at the end that I should talk about it or anything. It was more like I was surprised to see an essay video from you when you were when you were just doing AMVs. I love that leap. I love that you getting into the game legitimately. Not that AMVs aren't legit. I make them. I fuck with them. But you know what I mean. It was really funny right off the bat. And I don't know how you'll take this or not, but when you started talking, I thought you sounded so much like Roger Smith 2004 that I thought for 1 second I was like, wait, did Roger just narrate this and he wrote it or something? It was so uncanny. He sounds exactly like Roger. Take that as you will. But I thought I like Roger's delivery a lot, so I was cool with it. But I just thought that was really interesting and funny. But of course, I love that you're talking about this underrepresented OVA, Travka, I believe is called. And I also really like the discussion, not just of the show itself and the creation behind it, and talking about all the staff, rattling them all off the way that you do. But you also do some pushback about and kind of address the current state of it on anime YouTube of people that have covered it. And you talk about that one guy that was like, yeah, he had a pretty positive, fair, charitable review of it. But the biggest spotlight was on Super Eye Patch Wolf's Redline video, which is the biggest Redline video, as is a lot of his videos are the biggest of whatever subject he's talking about, as they do. And he kind of just sells it short a lot. And he didn't mention how these characters are in Redline, and that's kind of cool, and it makes you appreciate them more. And Arcada mentions that, he complains in the review in Arcada's review of Redline. He's like, "Oh, I wish we got to know more about these side characters." And then he says that, "Oh, wait," and there's a side OVA, and he sounds like he's mad, and you're like, and Aldai's like, "Why you have to be mad? It's just the game." I'm referencing something. But it's like, why you have to be mad? He's just the game. Isn't that a good thing? This was really cool. But I like that the kind of fourth wall break as well, and it kind of shows that there's an awareness to what you're talking about, and you're adding something to the space, and you have an awareness. I just said that like 4 times. To what you're talking about. You're not just like, hey guys, check out this OVA. You know, there's conscientiousness to it, and it's edited pretty nicely. And again, it shows in this video, it's a case study for sure, that hey guys, maybe you should try making some AMVs. Maybe you don't have to post them on your channel, but make an AMV. It could really help your editing. In terms of like how you pace clips and pace the video as a whole, and kind of making it constantly exciting and engaging in that way. The timing of stuff, and you just get better practice. And I think that practice really shows in this video. I think it's really great, and it kind of felt old school too. It kind of felt like this was a video that came out in like 2017 or something. And again, not that that's a bad thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, I think it's great. And it's just the best because I'm the attention to YouTube here, and addressing it, and the current discussion, adding to the discussion in that way. But also I'm just really happy that you're jumping into this scene. A lot of new people, and there's another guy I'll talk about later that also got in, and it's freaking great. I'm here for it. Hey, it's Bonsai Pop, Mike and Tyler. I think I've got that right this time. I made sure to actually know their names now, not just because he commented on the latest video, which I very much appreciate. And this video is called "Anime is Punk Rock Cartoons," which is not so much about trying to prove that idea. It's more of just kind of a catchy title to really invite you into their ethos and their headspace, where they've been at, really making 2020, closing the chapter of 2020, and really showing you this is what we're going to try to do for 2021, which is really, really exciting. So he mentioned in a comment he left on one of the digests that the Bleach video, a lot of that I talked about is like, you're not explaining a lot of what you're saying. And what I took, and he said he was going to address that in this video. And I think the way he addresses it is talking about how a lot of times it would come off surface level because that's as much time as they have to get into it. They can't make a video longer than 15 or 20 minutes because it takes longer to make longer videos. Surprise, surprise. People don't really register that, but and maybe some people can crank out long ass videos, but that's probably because they might be unscripted or something like this. Like it's like, how can Shabes make so many digests? It takes like an hour to record, and it just it takes a little effort on my part, but I can do it. But like it takes a significant amount of effort to make videos just that long, and they have to be that long in order to appease YouTube, which is really what they're under. They're kind of under the heel of. And I love that he talked about Treesicle's whole thing and how like they were peaking and then they're gone. They're just gone. YouTube stopped promoting their stuff and they're just a dead channel, and they stopped. And so they had Bonsai Pop had already distanced themselves in 2020, and I had not known that. I thought that was interesting. And he's talking a lot about where they came from, even his own creative journey, Mike's personal journey, even talking about him being homeless for a period of time, which he probably talked about in his Tokyo Godfathers video, which I didn't watch, but I should now. I watched his Go-Go video. It was good. But I just had, one too many Tokyo Godfathers videos. What can I say? A lot of people made them this year. I was like, yeah, that's enough Tokyo Godfathers. I'm sorry. No, but like he talked about that in this video, and his trajectory as a person just a person, creative endeavors and things, and had gone to college for programming, but couldn't bring himself to do it and dropped out and sort of stuff. And it was really great to see that. I love personal shit in videos, because I think it's unique, and it's emotionally gripping and engaging. And I love that. And and again, it's something that YouTube is very distinctive at. Instead of, I could just watch anime or play games instead of watch YouTube, but we're there for YouTube for a very unique experience. A lot of us find ourselves watching a lot of YouTube videos because they have the distinct quality that regular TV shows and movies and games that we say that we're fans of, we're not as engaged with. There's something about YouTube, right? And I think the personal aspect is one of them. I think that's great. And I love how much they talked about their Patreon and how much they really appreciate it. It takes a lot of guts to include something in a video that has you very emotionally vulnerable. And in this video, it was him kind of like really emotionally reacting and sort of crying to a fan's submission to something. I didn't really get what that was, but it was a fan opening up vocally, appreciating their Patreon and how the Discord was kind of a new home for them, and really impactful stuff that they care a lot about. And the kind of the culmination of this video, this like, yeah, what is this video type of thing, the real takeaway from it that really got to me was they're done trying to please YouTube the same way. They've been making videos every week, doing that grind, doing the YouTube thing, and it's soulless and shitty, and they hate it. So they want to put more effort into longer videos, take a little more time, but it's a real employer. They really sell this to you. It's like, if we do this, we need your support. We need you to click on all the videos, because then YouTube will not show them to people. They'll think that you stopped, and that'll be the end of this channel, type of thing, because they really are trying to do this for a living. And he really sold that to you as someone who had gone through all these other jobs, and giving you his life story as context. It really made it like, yeah, they really are trying here. And it was the first time I really felt like I felt empathetic to people trying to make YouTube their job. To be honest, it's because like, when I see people trying to do that, I always know the pitfalls and the things they have to sacrifice, like the quality, namely the quality, in order to do it. And YouTube just wants junk. And they talk about it with a great example with Donkey. He fucking exploded ever since he started putting out very obvious, deliberate junk. It's ridiculous. It's awful. And I hate that it has to come to that. I'm happy he's lampooning it in that way. But like, I never, biting that bullet, like, it is a little holier than thou, a little pretentious on my part to try not to appreciate and respect that. But like, if people are that passionate about this and they really go for it, they gun for it, and they work hard, and this is still work at the end of the day, I can't help but respect that. And that's the thing: respect the grind, respect the hustle, but would always be kind of my response to it. But this was really, really impactful to me, where it's like, yep, we're gonna do that thing that you want us to do, at the expense of not, at the risk, not the expense, at the risk of killing our channel, because we care that much. I really, really respected that. That's really cool. So shoutouts to Mike and Tyler. I hope I finally know your names behind this channel. And also, like, the fact that it was so personal. Like, I found out you're in Massachusetts. I'm in Rhode Island. Just, that I know it's the pandemic, but it's just, I was like, oh shit. I don't know. You find out all your friends are in Canada, and you're like, ugh. It just gets, or Dallas. It's like, yeah, or across the country in Los Angeles or something. But then when you find someone's also in New England, like the the fact that you know that Anthony Fantano's like in Connecticut, there's just something kind of nice about that. Not like it like I want to meet him or something like that, but like there's just something nice about that. I don't know. There's just something like cool. I'm not missing out by living in where I'm living, right? Thank you, internet, for democratizing in this way that I can do that and I don't have to move wherever. Good shit. Anyway, just another, not to dox myself, I suppose. Yeah, really good shit. Thank you so much. Really great. Oh, here's something really interesting. Sarah Moon, which there's a little kind of behind in front of it, had this video, 50 minutes, feminist SJW anime translators, talking about Dragon Maid, that old classic debate, and this ran the whole gambit. I really respected how thorough this was. It's an actual translator. There's an awareness of what's going on. Like they incorporated the most recent controversy of one of the translators getting flack for translating Ni as Big Brother, which you can agree and disagree all you want, but it's a subjective choice that the translators accept. That's their choice, and there's no perfect translation or anything. It's an art, not a science. And yeah, I liked that it was a very nuanced take. It wasn't just deliberately siding to one side. But the thing that really sent it over the top for me was how much energy and passion she put into this video in terms of its presentation, specifically being a very, very clear, deliberate take on ContraPoints' style of video, where there's the whole set and you're playing this character and you're playing multiple characters in different sets and there's phases to the video and you're going to different sets and it's a whole production. And, some people don't like ContraPoints. Some people, a few people don't like her. It can be kind of abrasive, but I love that because it is showing effort. It's showing passion. It's a deliberate choice. It's not just saying things into a mic, right? It's very structured and planned. I don't know. And seeing the effort so transparent like that always really gets me to respect them. And honestly, Sarah Moon's humor here isn't so bad, and it's kind of abrasive and a little too on the nose at points. She has like a literal can of worms that she keeps biting into them very aggressively, like kind of deal. And I like that. She's not ashamed and not like coming off as cringy or something. Again, taking a lot from ContraPoints, also going that far and coming off cringy at points. I really respect and admire that. But yeah, I really liked this video. It's a very trite sort of subject matter, like all of us are kind of sick of it, right? But I liked hearing it from a legitimate translator. She really broke some Japanese down for you, and this is what we do, and this is the situation here. And she didn't just go over the patriarchy line. She went over every major thing that seems like an SJW type of line, like things that people had a problem with. She didn't fully tackle it the same way, but she does also cover the counter of like, oh, it's queer erasure and whatever, but no, it's just an innocent joke, and things like that, and a lot of reading into this, and really put a lot of thought and attention to it. Nuanced take, doesn't just say it's good, like she doesn't just like excuse it. She is saying that, yeah, that line really wasn't what they were supposed to say. It's probably wasn't the best, because based on their characters and not because of some social whatever heat or hate they might get. It was more like the character probably wouldn't say this for this and this reason, and the problem is actually this character because she shouldn't be blah 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 blah. In terms of the translations, purely because of that, which I thought had a lot of care and attention put into it. And again, yeah, I really like that it was a ContraPoints type of video, and because she doesn't put those types of videos out very often, and I always tune in. She's got me on her channel. I'm tuning in every video. Not so much Philosophy Tube but I'm not much of a bread. I don't know. I don't try to say I'm a BreadTube person because I don't follow absolutely all of them, but like because it's like the only person I don't actively watch is PhilosophyTube. I don't know why it suddenly turned into that, but whatever. I just dug that. So I think if you like those videos, I think, this isn't like as good as those videos or something like that, but I really respected it and liked it for first video I've seen of her. She's been doing this for years. That's another thing I thought was really cool. A lot of also had the similar ContraPoints thing with a lot of guest voices and things like that, like Red Bard's in here and things like that. And Canepa is also in here. That was all great. Oh, and she also, at the end, she's like, here's some actual problems to get angry about. Like, translators not being paid well, sort of deal. I liked it a lot. Yeah, it was great. But, I didn't have the most fun with that video. I was delightfully surprised by that video, and then Bonsai Pops was, like, really strong and impactful. But, like, in terms of the most fun and the fact that, like, I'm seeing this video from them, it was just so delightful. It was a great time. I really encourage you to watch this video from Hayden. Hayden Loves Anime, formerly Karki, talking about reminiscing on anime magazines. And they're talking about not just anime magazines and all the new types and Animericas that they've collected over the years, but just anime fandom in general back then, and kind of a 2000s nostalgia bomb. And Karki really, Hayden, Hayden really immerses and indulges in that with the 4:3 aspect ratio and the 2009-esque video Windows Movie Maker type cards and things like that, bonus clip and things like that. I like a lot of the annotations that pop up that were reminiscent of old YouTube annotations, but they were very tastefully put in and things like that. Like, I'll get better as I go. Sorry, this part of the video is so rough. I get better as I go along, type of thing. I really liked that. Some of the AMV sections. I loved the commercial break in the middle, which was a little weird because it was in the middle of a montage of all the art that they were showing off. But it was like commercial. It was like eye catch. A bunch of commercials played in full, which, like, it reminded me of what Rebel Taxi does, but Rebel Taxi doesn't, like, play the whole commercial. But hey, playing the whole commercial where you can't, there's no choice but to watch it, is part of the experience. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting choice. I was like, okay, yeah. It played like 3 whole commercials, and then the other eye catch, and then kept going without an actual ad break, like a YouTube ad break kind of thing. That was funny. Yeah, but like had the whole aesthetic to it. I really liked how earnest and honest Hayden was about their experience with anime and anime fandom. I was also just thinking about like the end of the video. I don't know how much of it was a joke, because like there's definitely a veneer of like awareness and kind of tongue-in-cheek type of thing to their approach here. But towards the end, there's this like montage of video creators that I guess Hayden looked up to and aspired to. But I don't know if that was just a joke. I can't get sarcasm, Hayden. Please tell me, is it a joke? It's a joke, Shapes. No, yeah, but I just really fucked with this, where it just felt like I didn't even have that much nostalgia for it the way Hayden does. But I just like all the different things they were showing off in their clamp collection, the clamp shrine. Some of those match cuts where they played the OP and then showed off the cell that they have. That was cool. Yeah, I really fuck with this. Yeah, I had the most fun with it, and I'm just happy that it was like a major significant video out of someone that, like, we've talked for a while with, like a while or something, but like, I've seen them in voice chats a long time, and they were mostly known for kind of meme stuff and like how to have sex in Pokemon Emerald type of thing, and embracing those types of unregistered hypercam aesthetics and things like that, and just shit posts. But to have something this earnest and really, really nice, and I love the sentiment towards the anime. It's like, I wouldn't be this into anime as I am if I didn't have people to talk to, if I didn't have people to recommend this weird shit to, I really liked that, and there was a lot of really cool little anecdotes. It didn't focus just on the magazines. It kind of used the magazines as a launch point to have a lot of different random sporadic points that didn't feel like they had to be cohesive in some way. It was just an experience, and I thought it was really bold and cool, and I really liked it. Yep. That was great. Really great job, Hayden. And I think that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Beamburst, Boo, Hazel, Kuiper, My Anime Pod, Najbeb, Unique Nemosaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are the best. You have a great... I had such a good outro, and, like, I ruined it. I don't want to use it anymore. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.